Welcome to Evergreen Conversations, a breakthrough audiovisual storytelling medium that serves as a platform for news, entertainment, sports, and culture. My name is Freddrell Green, and I am the co host and executive producer of Evergreen Conversations. And on today's episode, we have the Morehouse College First-Gen organization that has just been created this semester. And we're going to be talking about the efforts that they're doing for first-gen students at Morehouse, and also about the topics surrounding what first-gen students are going to be up against with the current political climate that we are in right now. So without further ado, let me introduce the current members and e-board members of the Morehouse First Gen Association. We have Damaj Smith, the Chief of Staff of the Morehouse First Gen. We have Elijah Grace, and as well as Shiloh Henry. How are y'all doing?
Doing well, man. It's been a great week so far. A lot of eventful things happen. I'm happy to be here, and I thank you for having us on this recording.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. So my first question for all of y'all, and you can each give your individual response to this. I want you all to give my audience a rundown on what this organization is, what your work is about, and why y'all all chose to develop it.
Basically, MFGF Morehouse First-Generation Forward Initiative is an initiative that was started actually last year in 2023 by Jovince Jerome, our current president, as well as a recent Morehouse graduate, Imani Heights. It was an initiative that was started in order to pretty much cater to and build a community within the first-gen community on Morehouse campus that has not have necessarily been represented properly in all of its 100 and I want to say 60 years, if I'm not mistaken, 167 years. So it's just we're pretty much an initiative that's trying to build a community and create some type of equity for first gen while building that community and building us up one another.
Yep. Right on, right on. And to further elaborate on the First Gen Forward Initiative at Morehouse, could any of you, I'll start with you, Damaj, could y'all expand upon what are some key initiatives in particular that y'all want to bring in or that y'all have brought in for First Gen students at Morehouse?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Elijah was saying, a lot of our work is predicated in making sure that first generation students here at Morehouse College get the recognition that they deserve because we make up a good percentage of the Morehouse College institution, right? So some of our initiatives that we had this year, we recently had a scholarship resume and workshop event where we had programs such as the McNair program. That's a STEM related program. They came in, they talked to a lot of the members of First Generation Forward and they offered them scholarship opportunities. We also had OIA come in. We had career development services come in as well. So all of our work that we're doing here is making sure that first generation students, they get the resources that they need because like someone for you example, you understand or someone can tell you how the operations of college works. We are new to this. We are the first ones within our family to pursue higher education. So we don't know certain things coming into college. So our obligation, our duty is to make sure that they didn't know that so that it eases their matriculation through Morehouse College. Another initiative that I could think of is just the meet and greet that we had earlier this year within the African American Hall of Fame. Not only was it good to be, introductory to what Morehouse First Generation Forward is, but it was a great networking event as well. We had Dr. Sarah there who works in the Diversity and Equity and Inclusion Office. We had Provost Brown there as well. Like you can garner so much and you can cultivate so many relationships with being within this organization. You just got to go out and get it.
Exactly. And you mentioned something at the end of that you talking about going out and get it. That's a mentality that can stir up a lot of conversation when it comes, especially to first gen students, because resources, access, networking, all those different things come into play when it comes to first gen students. Some have when you get into this conversation, you can talk about how certain folks who have that drive don't have the resources and the networks to go out and be as successful as other students, as their other counterparts. Others are the opposite. So I want to ask you all, in particular, when it comes to first gen students at Morehouse, in particular, What do you feel is some of the biggest challenges that are facing them at our institution that hasn't been met by administration, that hasn't been met by any outside source? What do you think is the biggest issue? We also have Javenson, the president, coming in. But how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you, Mr. Green, for having us. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Vincent Jerome. I am a graduating senior business administration major with a concentration in management and political science minor from Brooklyn, New York, by way of Haiti. And thanks again for having us. And we're looking forward to a great conversation.
Absolutely. And you came in at the right time. I was just about to ask the question on what do you think in particular when it comes to first generation students at Morehouse? What are some of the biggest barriers or issues that Morehouse hasn't been meeting for first gen students at Morehouse? What do you think are some of the biggest barriers or inequities that first gen students are facing?
In my personal experience, I think it's two things. I think it's the lack of recognition and also the lack of funding. Me personally, when I chose Morehouse, I did not get any money from Morehouse at all. So I think recognizing that first generation students do attend Morehouse, and there's a lot of first generation international on that chose Morehouse not only for the history but also for what they know that Morehouse can bring. I think recognizing that and also funding those dreams and funding those opportunities for first generation is something that's needed for not only the population as a whole but also for the school as well.
Actually, absolutely. Does anyone else care to expand upon that?
Yeah, can I add to that?
Absolutely. Shiloh,
So,
yes.
yeah, so one thing I want to add is like I feel like the information and opportunities are there when it comes to like dealing with resources as a college, but with first gen, we don't have like parents or family that like could kind of give us a path to those opportunities. It's like we just walk in like kind of blindly compared to like certain like students that have like legacy or been a part of a legacy. So it's like trying to like being part of MFGF too and like kind of giving students that guide or like find like help them find their path to give them these opportunities is like a blessing as well. It's like a lot of these opportunities are not really found through first gen, especially for myself, like walking as a freshman, like I didn't know about like internship opportunities, scholarship opportunities, and just of the sort. And it's like now I know, but it's like it took me time to like adjust to that. So
Absolutely. Now, there's another question I wanted to ponder with all of y'all, and that is pertaining to connections with other folks who may not be first gen. When it comes to resources with anything, with any group, that is of need, it is my personal belief that you cannot get to where you want to go just by yourself. You have to utilize other spaces, other networks to push to push forward to your objective. So what kind of collaboration have y'all or are y'all thinking of making with other organizations that may not particularly focus on first gen, but with their help could help first gen students at Morehouse or any other institution in the Atlanta University Center?
I When we first started going forward with MSGF and building out our programming for the semester, one of the things we wanted to make sure of is that we stand by ourselves first, because we did want to bring an awareness of the organization for the first phase of the MFGF in general. I believe the first phase was community building. So we have not partnered with any program aside from the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, and the Office of the Provost. However, moving forward for the next semester and the next year, we'll start partnering with other organizations to bring that broader perspective, and also bringing making those organizations aware of our organization. But before we started, we wanted to make sure that MFGF have its own programs and also have its own like events and stuff like that, so people can, oh hey, there's an organization called MFGF that's doing this job, this and a third, and from there people can come in and join us, get a sense of who we are as its own organization before partnering. I believe some of my peers can also kind of elaborate more on that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. To elucidate on Mr. President's point, a lot of our work has been within Morehouse administration within itself. Coming into the leadership team and just do discussion that we had not only this current school year, but then the summer, we wanted to make sure that we had strong ties with Morehouse administration, being that we wanted to get chartered through the office of the provost. That unfortunately didn't go through, but we have strong connections with him and other offices and faculty of the college. So being that we're doing that, we're still, it's okay if we wanted to branch out and find other RSOs on campus. But like he was saying, we wanted to make sure that we had a strong community first within ourselves, and then we will branch off. What we're currently brainstorming now is trying to work in tandem with Spelman First Generation Forward, and ultimately, spread that across the AUC. We could start working with Clark. We could start working with Morris Brown. But right now, we're still in baby steps. This is our inaugural year. We're making sure that everything is consolidated and we have a strong basis, and then we can branch out and extend that olive branch to other RSOs or organizations within the AUC.
Great. I wanted to also ask you all about having this initiative, or no, well, I wanted to ask you all personally when it comes to your personal experiences, what, I guess, motivated you as first gen students to come to Morehouse. Now, I asked that question because typically, with the folks that I knew from where I came from, when if they were first generation, they were almost likely to go to a public institution, which would be cheaper and would be more affordable for their family. It would be a lot more manageable. But Morehouse College is, a private institution. It's almost more so of an investment into your future that, isn't really guaranteed, because I've heard so many different stories of folks who go to Morehouse and then drop out after their first year or first semester because they couldn't afford it. So as first generation students, what motivated you to go to Morehouse? And do you feel that first generation students hold or have a place at Morehouse and can consistently thrive as a sector in our society at Morehouse, or any other private institution for that matter, where funding is a disparity?
So like you mentioned, a lot of people, especially myself, when I was like applying to colleges back in 20, we're not even gonna put a date on it, but back when I was applying to colleges, I'm from New York City, so we have this thing called the SUNY and CUNY system, which is very much more affordable than going to a private institution. So one of my main things when I was applying to schools was I don't want to put my family in debt because I cannot afford to go to a private institution unless they give me a full ride scholarship. So I was adamant on I'm just gonna go to a city school. I'm gonna go to a community college, which there's nothing wrong with that. But having it's that problem of not having that choice to, oh, I just want to go to this school because I want to go to this school, instead of I don't have that choice. I want to go to this school because I can afford this school, which is something that's very prevalent in first gen community. Um, Unfortunately, I do have a scholarship that affords me the opportunity to come to Morehouse, and I'm here well, because I want to be here, because Morehouse is a school that shapes and molds young men of color, and that's what I hold dearly in my heart. And I believe that yes, first gen students do have a place here at Morehouse, because at one point Morehouse was just first gen students. They were just men of color that wanted to get an opportunity for their family and to create opportunities for their families. I believe that there is no Morehouse without first gen students. There's no more first gen students have this grit, have this work ethic unlike anybody else, because we know what it's like to come from parents and family that don't have the opportunities as everybody else. And so we're going to work 10 times harder in order to ensure that this opportunity that we were granted does not go without being shined on or appreciated.
Now, a follow up to that, do you feel as though with that grit and that fire and that passion that first gen students have, what do you see in other students that you come across who aren't first gen students? Do you see that same grit and fire and passion, or do you see, uh, that entitlement? Do you see any of those different types of traits where like they feel as though you feel as though they don't really they take for granted the fact that they're at Morehouse? Because I feel as though that's a feeling that is commonplace at our institution. So many of us come with the passion, but we don't stick with the passion. We lose sight of why we came here. Whereas, when you actually, when you have something at stake, when like if you mess up here, like a first gen student, if you mess up here, there's no do-overs. Your mom or dad isn't going to be able to pay this loan off, or isn't going to be able to get you out of this. Like, you're setting the stand. Like, there's no blueprint. So do you see that in your counterparts, your non first gen students? Do you see that same level of grit, or do you see complacency or lack of commitment?
Of course, you're gonna see that there are students that have that grit, because at the end of the day, we come to Morehouse because we are the best of the best. So there are going to be legacy students and students that are not first gen that do have that same grit, may be comparable to a first gen student. But more times than not, I will say I do see people that are legacy students or come from families that are more fortunate or can afford opportunities like this, that do seem to come in and not care as much and not give that same effort, like you say, and just they had this opportunity and they're wasting their time, to say it the most brutally way. Um, and I think, um, I lost my train of thought, but just to answer to your question, yes, I do see that more times than not, people that are not first gen students here at Morehouse do tend to just take for granted the opportunities that they are afforded.
Right. Right, absolutely. I want to jump into this next topic that Damaj was also eager to talk about as well, and that's the result of the presidential election and what impact it could have on first gen students. So, as we all may know, Project 2025, the plan, basically the playbook for the MAGA, or the Republican Party, as you may call it. A part of that plan is to dismantle the Department of Education, which is a tremendous factor in first generation students choosing where they want to go to college and helping them get to that college, with financial assistance like FAFSA, scholarships, things of that nature. So, what impact do you see this incoming administration having on first gen students as a whole, and also the work that you all try to do with this organization? I'll start with Damaj because I
Yeah.
know he's eager.
Thank you so much for that question. Um, I can speak to this question even before Donald Trump won presidency for this next upcoming election. We were planning. So the week of the election was the week of first generation student celebration, and there was some deliberation not only between Morehouse First-Gen executive leadership, but our senior board of trustees on whether or not we should hold our events during this time based off the election results. And I was in heavy opposition to it. Regardless of who wins presidency, the world still goes round. We cannot halt or we cannot hinder the recognition of our demographic because someone wins presidency. You know what I mean? He's going to be here for these next 4 years. We have to endure. We have to keep pushing. The world is not going to stop because Donald Trump won presidency. You know what I mean? But to answer your question, I feel as though we're going to see a new wave of American society based off Donald Trump winning this presidency. Is setting a precedent for more ignorance and bigotry to enter within the different apparatuses of American life. You know what I mean? The silent majority is what they call them. You know what I mean? So if we see that happen, and Donald Trump can say, I'm not aligned with Project 2025, but he constantly hangs out with them. A lot of the photo ops that we see, or him being in meetings, he's with the founders or the writers of Project 2025. So we know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? So if we see the eradication of systems such as the Department of Education coming, it's going to leave a lot of first generation students specifically not having the opportunity to pursue higher education. I'm granted to have a scholarship and attend here at Morehouse College, but part of how I pay for my higher education is through FAFSA. You know what I mean? My mother doesn't make more than 100K. I come from a single parent's home. I need that money, right? So if we see that gone, you know, I may be gone. Like a lot of like-minded students and people who come from a similar socioeconomic background may not have the opportunity to pursue higher education. And honestly, that's extremely sad. And we're entering a time of just dangerous life. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I pray to God that it doesn't happen. But, you know, who knows what can happen within these next 4 years of him being president.
Right. Right. Does anyone else care to share their thoughts?
Yeah, I would like to follow up on that. I definitely agree with Damaj. I think when it comes to the results of the elections, and the whole Project 2025 thing, that kind of show you what what can happen when it comes to policies, and also when it comes to like when first generation students are not in mind when policies are being implemented. Because as Damaj said, he came from a single parent household. My dad is an Uber driver. We can barely afford Morehouse. If it wasn't because of scholarships such as the Thurgood Marshall College Fund and the United Negro College Fund, I would not be here, and I would not have been a graduating senior at Morehouse College. So with the whole Project 2025 and the hopefully not future eradication of the Department of Education, I think all of this will definitely have a role to play when it comes to first generation students getting the chance to pursue higher education, or even first generation students being able to pay for that higher education. A lot of programs will be gone. A lot of things that we tend to utilize in order for us to achieve that American dream that we've heard so much about, that is basically powered by education and schooling. We're not going to be able to afford them, and we're not going to be able to like go for that American dream. So I think this whole election process and the policy making process, I think when it comes to things like that, first generation students and people who are pursuing a dream who are not legacy, or were not born in the states, they should be in mind as well, because those people, us people, I guess, are also the backbone of the country, and we are what the American dream is about too. The American dream is not about a legacy person who grew up in a middle class, high class family, going to college and then adding more money to their family. That's not what the American dream is. The American dream is someone coming from the bottom of the bottom, and going all the way to the top, or making sure that the next generation of their family makes it to the top, or to a point where they're comfortable in pursuing and continuing that legacy. I believe that's what the American dream is about. So I think that's one of the things that we'll start seeing, is that first generation students will definitely be affected by policy making going on in the future.
Right, right. And you touched on an important part in that last part about how the American dream, the narrative of the American dream has been skewed. And a lot of that has to do with media, when it comes to pointing, the camera at what's true and what's not, what is historical and what's just fictional. Damaj, I want to get your response on how you feel the attention, like how do you feel in terms of the attention that has been, like the lack of attention pointed at education as a topic, and when it comes to policy, and particularly funding for college students, first generation students, when they talk about with Joe Biden, when he was breaking record numbers when it comes to student loan debt relief, which was a big impact for first generation students who went to college. Do you feel as though this topic isn't talked about enough by people? Do you feel as though the work that you do as the first generation initiative at Morehouse doesn't get enough credit or appreciation from the national audience as a whole? Do you feel like that this work needs a lot more attention?
Oh, absolutely. The fact that we are the first organization or any of that likeness initiative, whatever you want to call it, in the existence of Morehouse's near 200 year long history to come into existence and try to recognize first generation students speaks for itself. You know what I mean? It's currently 2024, and we are the first organization to do that. So we definitely need more recognition when it comes to first generation students being highlighted and recognized within the Morehouse student body. For God's sake, our SGA vice president is a first generation student. You know what I mean? He was on that panel discussion last week in African American Hall of Fame. So we definitely need more recognition. But in terms of just this issue on, the eradication of the Department of Education and FAFSA, it just brings me back to a quote that I've heard for majority of my life. If you don't want a black man to know something, put it in a book. You know what I mean? So if we see these systems repealed and people from underserved communities, predominantly black and brown, which is the known fact, I believe that this next generation of black and brown, but just people are going to be so like illiterate and uneducated, and it's dangerous. And I really don't want that to happen. So I pray to God that it doesn't happen. But that's where I see this country going. But in terms of just highlight and recognition of Morehouse first generation students, we definitely need more recognition. But that's what we're doing now. We're trying to have more social engagements. We're trying to have more events for people to come out and understand what we are. You know what I mean?
Right on, exactly. Now, we talked a lot about the issues pertaining to that. I want to hear from you all. What are some solutions that you would like to see or that you would like to implement on a local level at Morehouse and in the AUC, but also on a national level, despite a new administration coming in that doesn't really see any hope for first generation students and the Department of Education? What would you like to see from the Black community, from outside governmental sources, from our civic organizations, all these different organizations, particularly that pertain to uplifting folks like the first generation students, African Americans, minority students, who are always at the low end of the totem pole when it comes to the social order? What would you all like to see? I'll start with President Jerome.
What would I like to see when it comes to on a local and national level? I definitely would like to see the first generation community coming together a little bit more, starting at Morehouse and expanding to the AUC. I know there's a lot of students that are first generation students. I'm still finding out a few of my peers that I interact with on a daily basis that are first generation student. So I would like that to see that a little bit more. Not even to just come to our events, but also let's put our heads together and make some change in the AUC and putting our stamp and leaving our um, some type of not recognition, but something in the AUC that said, yes, we were first generation students and we came to the AUC and we left our mark there. So when the next generation comes, we can they can basically see that there are people that went through the AUC that did not let the AUC go through them, that made a difference, and they can follow in our footsteps. I think this is starting with the Morehouse First-Gen and the Spelman First-Gen as well. I'm not sure if Clark does have a First-Gen, but if they do, I think we need to bring a little bit more awareness on the whole First-Gen the First-Gen organization, First-Gen population on campus. When it comes to like national, I think First-Gens and different sectors of first generation, it can be international or not. They need to be highlighted a little bit more when it comes to policy making. There are a lot of policies out there that can benefit us. There is a lot of policies out there that basically we are not going to be benefiting from. So I think when you have that one population in mind as well, and also coming back on the American dream discussion, I think first generation students needs to be put into that perspective, their perspective, what they think can should be put on those policy making as well.
Great. Thank you so much. And like I promised to Elijah Grace, this episode would be 30 minutes, and we just hit 30 minutes. I want to thank you all for coming on this show today. to talk about your initiative, to talk about the topic of first-generation students, to talk about the importance and what's at stake and what we all can do to move forward. I appreciate all of you coming on the show today.
We appreciate you, brother, for having us. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Great
Virgil.
episode, man. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Can I make as a side comment? Like, I just wanted to add it on to like Jovi's
Yeah.
comment about like first gen. Yeah, I just wanted to add like I totally agree with Jovi, but more like on the local level, I wanted to like see more like like collaboration with like the entire AUC within Clark, Spelman, and Morehouse, but also too maybe like a protege program within like an upperclassman of either Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark that's seen someone that's been through experience and kind of give kind of feedback to like freshmen coming in that they have like no idea what to expect, but also too I say for like the national level as well, just like like having more accessibility for first gen students, also making them like a focal point, as because like most of these policies are mostly for like I guess like the average American, and the average American is what white males. It's not for like first gen students who are black, who are minorities of America. So it's like I guess really focusing on that and really pushing that agenda and like doing that by like okay, just what's the word? I guess like motivating that by like promoting it more through like social media platforms, show that like we are here, we are matter, so that governments can see that like that could like really change and put like recognition to like the I guess the American government eyes as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And once again, thank you all for coming on the show. And thank you for listening to Evergreen Conversations, a breakthrough audiovisual storytelling medium that serves as a platform for news, entertainment, sports, and culture. We will see you next time.